So I grew up in a pretty cool rodeo family. My dad rode bareback horses professionally for about 15 years. I was horseback from the time that I was a little bitty kid. When I was 2, 3 years old, I had a little Shetland pony that I'd kick around on and kept moving up from there. And my dad always showed me the rope, showed me how to be a cowboy and what it means to be a cowboy. And so I've had a cowboy hat on my head forever and enjoying every minute of it. When I turned about 15, I got on my first bareback horse and fell in love with it. So all the high school and junior rodeos, I worked pretty much every event at one time or another. It was either roping calves, heading or heeling, riding bareback horses. Just wanted to explore all my options. I bulldogged for a short amount of time, and I just wanted to make sure that I would kind of cover the base of every event and stick with what I knew and stick with what I liked, which ended up being the bareback riding for my #1 and roping calves #2. Being able to do both on each side of the arena, to me, it's very humbling because I get to kind of see both ends and both crowds and learn from each rodeo contestant, and I feel like that's kind of what made me into what I am today. So I went to all the junior opens as a kid. I wanted to win stuff like the Barry Burke Open and Joe B's and Chris Neal's Opens, and I got lucky. I was able to win second at Barry's on more than one occasion. Same deal with Chris Neal's. I did get the win at one of Joe B's Opens. I started to crave, the simple thing of winning. I was learning how to ride bucking horses during the time I was entering these ropings, but I was still head over heels with roping calves. Being a world champion calf roper was #1 on my mind, and bareback riding was something that I did for all around points. I knew I wasn't always going to be able to afford to rope calves on my own and keep horses underneath me after having some tragic losses with horses and that sort of thing. I knew the bareback riding was going to be a route that I could take and only need my rigging bag and my truck to get to the rodeo. And that's whenever, I knew that it was time to kind of move on and perfect that event. 2019 ends my rookie year. I went to a lot of rodeos, stayed healthy all year. Didn't make my goal of making the finals or winning Rookie of the Year, but I learned more that year than I have any years of rodeoing in my life. So when 2020 rolled around, I knew for a fact that I was going to the National Finals Rodeo. I knew that what it was going to take to belong in the top 15. And unfortunately, COVID strikes a quarter way through the year. I was sitting in the top 3 in the world at the time, and it wasn't going to let it bring me down. Didn't know if we were going to get to rodeo, but I had a feeling there was going to be a national finals at the end of the year, so had to rodeo completely different than anybody had ever had to rodeo. So I ended up with going to about half the rodeos I imagined I would have, making my first NFR with about half the money won too. End of September, whenever you know that your name belongs with the best in the world, it changes everything. It changes your mental aspect, your physical aspect. Once you realize that that's where you belong, that you pretty much get on a whole nother train and you keep it rolling and it doesn't stop. What we call the COVID year, it didn't matter where you went, whether there was 5,000 at it or 15,000 at it, the best in the world were going to be there every single weekend, which all the reason why it makes it so much more special to make the NFR is when you're competing against the top 35 bareback riders in the world, and there's no getting away from them. They're going to be at every rodeo you're at that weekend because there's nowhere else to go. It was an absolute knife fight, and it was something that I'll always be proud to be a part of, and I'll never regret that year. I had more fun than I think anybody else did during COVID. So to be able to go out there and accomplish my goal during a time like that, it just made me better for the next year. Get solidified, make my first NFR, and you've been dreaming of the Thomas and Mack since you could walk, and now it's 45 minutes in your backyard in Arlington, Texas. You want to see Vegas, you want to see the Thomas and Mack and the lights and what everybody talks about, but it was pretty awesome to have it right down the road. I felt really comfortable. I felt like I was in my hometown a little bit. And the feeling doesn't change. When you see the yellow buck and shoots and you're having to do all the same formalities that they do in Vegas, you know where you are and you know who you're competing against. And I think that's going to end up going down in the history books as, one of the wildest NFRs, with it being in Texas. So, I mean, how many times can you get to say that you competed at your first NFR in Texas? Rounds 2, 3, and 4, I go on to win second in all 3 of those rounds, and that's whenever I finally, felt like I was, there for a reason, and I knew that I could compete with the best. From there, I went to my very first pro rodeo of the year in Odessa, Texas. I was entered in the bareback riding and the calf roping. had a horse I wasn't real familiar with, and by all means, just a freak deal happened, and she comes over on me as I'm nodding and gets me in the right spot, ends up breaking my back, and I ended up having to have a spinal fusion on my T12 and L1, which was going to set me out for what the doctors told me could be more than a year, and obviously got told that I might not be able to get on anymore, but that kind of just went in 1 year and right out the other. I knew that as soon as I had the right surgeon get a hold of me and fix my back, that I was going to be riding bareback horses that year. So I go down to Austin. I have a doctor do my fusion. He told me that with a smile on his face that I could be riding bareback horses the same year, no problem, had I treated my physical therapy correctly. And so get the surgery done on January 27th. I'm in a big back brace for about 6 to 8 weeks, and all during the time I was getting on the bike and doing everything I could stationary. As soon as the brace came off and it was time to start rehab, I got after it every day. I just had one goal in mind, and it was to come back in the same season I got hurt in, and I wanted to at least be able to be in the top 30 so I would have good qualifications for the building rodeos the following year, so it wouldn't be like restarting all over again. First rodeo back would have been Dodge City, Kansas. I got released the week before, got on 2 practice horses, felt great. Get up there, I remember just shooting my dad a text. I said, "Hey Dad, I'm gonna be 89 points tonight, first one back, take the lead at Dodge, and we're just gonna get the ball rolling right here." And got on the ground, and kind of a feeling just kind of came over me, like I knew I wasn't gonna be 90 or anything, but sure enough, Boyd comes over the loudspeaker and says that I'm 89 points, and the first thing that came through my mind was I'm back, and we were rolling. My biggest asset in my bareback riding is always reflected back to my dad, of course. He's been there since I've got on my first one all the way through my first NFR. So every time I'm struggling or I need some help in all areas of life, but mainly my bareback riding, the first person I pick up and call is Leighton Berry. Learning everything that I can from each area and each age of a guy has helped me mold me into the bareback rider that I am today. Being able to go to those rodeos was a huge confidence booster, knowing I could come back and gain that much ground in such short time. So it really prepared me for the following season, knowing that I would get a full year rodeoing in 2022. So all the time people ask me if my back gives me issues, and if it hinders me in any type of way, and obviously it's going to give me some problems, some issues. I've got it fused together, so it'll never move like it ever did before. But one thing that I had to change completely was my mobility, my stretching. Now it's more about getting my workout in, doing the correct exercises for my back and my lower half and my legs. Doug Champion with Champion Fitness, he helped me out a lot during that time. He's actually suffered a back fusion before, so he was the first guy that I called to get me some mobility workouts and some stretches. So here we are, 2022 rolls around. I'm back to knowing right where I belong. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm fully healed up from all my surgeries. All year long I've been in the top 15, and of course I want to be number 1, and that's kind of the outcome that I expect of myself come December. Gone back to roping a lot here lately, roping a lot of calves and steers, and I've made it a big goal for myself to win the Linderman Award, which a lot of people don't know. You have to work 3 events, and one has to be on each side of the arena. So I love going for all-arounds at rodeos, so I've been just having a lot of fun this year, and bareback riding is always going to be number 1, and I'm going to be chasing that gold buckle until I get it. This cowboy hat right here, I get to put it on, walk out my door, and go venture out and do all the things that I want to do, whether it's roping calves, steers, working cows, getting on bareback horses, doing anything that I like to do. It involves this cowboy hat, and it means a lot to me because the people that I've been blessed to be around and have them firing me up, telling me that I'm a great cowboy and that it's an honor to be around me is something that I've always dreamed of doing, and it's something that I want to keep on pushing for every day. So every day I'm going to live it.